Alright, welcome back to the Oddworld Abe's Oddysee Let's Play. I got something different for you today. It's Oddworld Adventures, the Game Boy port of the PlayStation Classic. It wasn't developed by Oddworld inhabitants, it was developed by some other company that, in some respects, had a much harder job to do, because, boy howdy, this port is a bit of a mess. So it's got a password system, as Game Boy games tend to do. It doesn't have all the letters in the alphabet. Too many hexes for all the letters. But whatever, Game Boy games have passwords. It also has a GameSpeak menu, just like in the Oddworld, Abe's Oddysee. But Abe's vocabulary is a little limited. But, you know, he can whistle, he can fart, and he can also do the hand noise. I don't know what the hand noise does. I've never had to use it when I was playing. It's just kind of you can just kind of make hand noises. I don't know what it means. All right, let's get into the meat of this Game Boy game. So unlike in the PlayStation game, we actually don't start in Rupture Farms. We start off in the native areas. That is, areas outside in nature. So Abe, this is the cutscene where Abe falls off the cliff and dies, but in Game Boy format. And we start off with feeding the Paramites. Now, right away, the most important thing you can do in this game right now is that if you pause while jumping, you'll jump again in midair. And you'll keep jumping until you go so far off screen that the game will assume you are dead. This is probably the most entertaining thing you can do in this video game, jumping really, really high up and then dying. That is my professional review of this game. So, as you can see, we start off in Paramonia, and already dealing with Paramites. Paramites in this game, a bit more aggressive than in Abe's Oddysee, as you can see. They're very erratic, in my experience. And Slogs, too. The game tells you to sneak, but doesn't tell you how to sneak, which flubbed me up for a good couple of times. You have to sneak by holding the up button, and then the direction you want. Which is a terrible, terrible way of sneaking, and you'll see why later on. Now, even though we're not in Rupture Farms, we still see some Sligs, and we can even possess them. They can shoot their gun, that looks like a bazooka, and I don't know. I actually kind of like how the Sligs look in this game. I find their sprites to be kind of charming. Everything else in this game kind of looks like a mess, sprite-wise, especially Abe. Abe has, like, elf shoes for feet, which is very strange. They look like curved-up elf toes. So that's definitely very distracting thing for me. Now, as you can see, this is also mainly just a tutorial area. We see all these things telling us. Much like in the PlayStation game, we have to do password stuff, pull levers, later on pull flintlocks. Typical Abe's Oddysee things that I guess translate just well enough to work in a Game Boy game. Look at his feet! They're so weird. His feet are so weird when he's standing towards or away from the screen. Now, luckily, when you do chant, you don't have to wait for the bells to finish their thing, so you can just go right through. And here's Big Face telling us that flintlocks are a thing that we have to pull. I can't imagine anyone who's played this game that hasn't played Abe's Oddysee to be anything but immensely confused over what's going on. It must be a total mess. Now, we're in the Paramonian Temple proper, and it looks familiar enough. There's a big blocked off trial room and a bunch of smaller rooms that you gotta complete. This video is basically just going through these rooms. I'll be beating most of them, but not all of them, because A, this game is trash, and B, I am not good at this trash. Well, okay, I might be a little unfair, but, because for what it's worth, porting Oddworld to something like the Game Boy is Herculean feat, to say the least, but I mean, especially considering the sequel of this game looks so much better, which doesn't say much, but is something, and it's just kind of hard not to be kind of mean about this game. Now, as you can see, this room is really familiar to the first room we visited in Oddysee, with the Paramites and the levers, and this guy here who needs a password. Luckily, I already know the password, so we can already skip a good half of the puzzles in this room. I don't like how the Mudokons look in this game. When you see their portraits, they look very emaciated, which I guess is the point because the Mudokons aren't doing too hot, but I don't know, there's something very uncanny about their sprite-muddled faces. It's gross. They look more like, I don't know, they look like salamanders with hair. Really, just really, really ugly salamander frog people. Now, as you can see, instead of a ring, we actually get sparkles surrounding us. This is the same thing where if you just chant after getting your sparkles, all the explosives will blow up. Very, very simple, and we pull the flintlock, and basically already done with this room. And just like in Abe's Oddysee, if you go in the final room and you wait too long, oh no, there's more than one Paramite, and they'll attack you and kill you. Paramites are very deadly in this game, like far deadlier than in Oddysee, but mostly because you control real bad. Alright, so let's see. Looks like a pretty safe room. We can't go through here, but what if we... Oh no, a slig! Yep. So, something that's really weird in this game is that I guess enemies can see you, at least sligs can see you from the other screens, because that can't happen in Oddysee, usually. Only slogs and scrabs can do that. Sligs, you have to go on the same screen as them before they notice you, but in this game, if you hang around the screen next to them, they'll see you, and sometimes they'll even shoot you off screen. It's very strange, and I don't like it at all, not one bit. I guess it's because, unlike in Oddysee, where like the game kind of has to load every screen, here it's more of a fluid kind of deal, so I guess it doesn't have to do all that loading. Okay, so here's where sneaking controls really mess with you, because if you try to run away from this log, he'll catch you, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But you gotta hold up while sneaking, so there's a chance that you'll be stuck listening to the bell tune for a very long time. And if you don't recognize it, this is a recreation of the spiked ballroom in the Paramonian Temple, the first one you see, the easier one. The Game Boy had not the power for the spiked balls, so instead it's just a bunch of falling rocks. Which is fine by me. I'm okay with falling rocks. Now here's the pressure plate room. Pressure plates in this game are very strange. Because usually they're supposed to react immediately, but here there's a good healthy, like, 3 to 5 second delay. It's not even a consistent delay. So you kind of have to wait before the Paramites get smushed. It's kind of awkward to go through. In any case, we get the bell thing. And I only figured out in this recording that if you jump over the plates, the game also considers that running over them. So I guess it's less that the plates have a pressure sensor on them than like the space above them is like a sensor. Just very strange. Maybe it was just not a thing you could program, or they were too lazy. I don't know. I don't like being negative about games. I don't like being overly negative, but this game upset me a lot. And I played it way too much for my own good, because this had to be recorded like 10 times due to issues. So I kind of hesitate to pull the lever here, because I don't know how to consistently escape these Paramites. Luckily for me, they ended up occupying the same space, so it ended up being pretty easy to outrun them, but usually they corner you. So as you can see there, the Brock fell on one Paramite, but another one is still alive. But it doesn't matter, because I'm safe up here. So I wasn't actually expecting to beat that stage, so that was a nice surprise, I suppose. Here's the other spiked ballroom. Um, really the biggest threat, the rocks are falling really fast, but the bat, much like in Abe's Oddysee, is the biggest threat in these rooms. Interesting thing about the bats is that they actually move even when you're not on the same screen as them. So for example, this guy's going after me. I move out of the way, and now he's right there. Just a pretty handy thing to abuse, because in Abe's Oddysee, when you reset the screen, all the bats restart in their same position, so I don't know. That's neat. Now these are UXBs that are making the noise. You do have to touch them when they're black, not blinking. That took me... I had to trial and error through that one. Now, where do we go next? Well, would you believe it, you have to jump to the room here, even though there's absolutely no indication of that. That's a really bad thing about this game, is that you can't really tell where you're supposed to go next sometimes, because there's nothing, like no ledge or pebble. Like in Abe's Oddysee, if there is a ledge above, in the screen above you, a falling pebble would indicate that, and you'd be able to tell. But in this game, there's no such thing, so you just kind of have to jump around everywhere and do some guesswork. Let's get through this real quickly. You know, I might notice that something really weird is that there's a lot of music in this game. Now, don't get me wrong, there's music in, like, the PlayStation game, but it's very atmospheric. This is just kind of like video gamey music, which is weird. Also, I wasn't supposed to go past those bees. That was a total accident, and kind of signifies my death later on. But until then, that was a funny thing I could do. You could just completely skip past those bees. Now, on this puzzle, usually you're supposed to knock down the beehive to kill the Paramite, but as you can see, the Game Boy cannot do such a thing. So instead, it's more of a puzzle of, can you avoid the bees and then pull the lever at the same time? Because bees in this game don't really care for Paramites. They don't care to kill Paramites, they only care to kill you. Case in point, these guys are very vicious about destroying your body. Anyway, might as well try to do this the normal, easy way. But yeah, there's a lot of music. The music is very video gamey, which is weird. I guess you have to, because you can't really do atmospheric sounds on a Game Boy without being super creepy. But I don't know, I don't like it. Another thing I don't like is that you can't actually throw meat to the other screen. So enemies can see you from the other screen, but you can't interact with the other screen. Just complete inconsistency. And this ends up being a very bad thing for me because, yeah. There's no clean way to go from a roll to a run without taking a second to stop, so if you're being chased by a boulder, good luck getting out of there. I kind of just say screw it because I wasn't planning on going to the trial anyway. Now, speaking of ledges that don't have a good indication of where they are, this stage is a pretty mean offender. Also, you don't want to get next to Paramites when they're eating because it doesn't matter if you corner them or not. This game seems to only care about you being right next to them. So you can be in an open space and be right next to a Paramite and it'll still kill you. Now this stumped me for ages because as you saw, I picked up that piece of meat and I'm like, oh, a Paramite. I clearly have to throw my meat at it. But your meat disappears, and I have no idea why. There's no good reason for that meat to disappear. Furthermore, there's no good reason for this Paramite to be here, because as you can see, there's actually a screen above me. So, I ended up being stumped for nothing, because I thought I had to kill that Paramite to progress, but you can actually completely ignore the Paramite. Just stuff like that is what gets my goat. It really gets me peeved off. Now, this following death, because I'm gonna die, let's be honest. This was partly my fault, because I didn't trust the game in having, like, proper physics. I tried fall to go down the ledge normally because I didn't think Abe would be able to reach the ledge below him just by falling. But wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what you have to do. And also notice that that Paramite before that well wasn't there before, and now it is. I don't know what's going on. And yeah, this is how you do that. Get rid of that jerk. At least, I mean, they faithfully remade everything, you know, level design wise. It's just when you have the same level design but really stiff controls, like Abe's jumping is really stiff, and just turning around can be a menace. And stuff like that, and the Paramite's acting weird. Like coming out of nowhere and attacking you and killing you. It's no fun to play. And this is where I think I draw the line, because I don't want to do this anymore. So this has been Oddworld Adventures. It's a mess. There's a sequel, Oddworld Adventures 2. I actually played that when I was a kid. It's far more entertaining and better made, I think. But this is not worth a playthrough. I don't know if this goes outside of the Paramonian Temple, but it doesn't look like it. I've looked at videos of what looks like the end game, and it's still like, it's more sligs and slogs, but it still looks like the Paramonian Temple. So I don't know what's going on. I'll see you next time where we go to Oddworld Abe's Oddysee. Reach for the stars, Abe. Reach for them.